Chicago. I want to go to Washington, D.C. I want to go to, name a state, Maine, North Carolina, Wisconsin. They go anywhere they want. That must be nice. Can you imagine? Just name a city that you want to take a vacation to, maybe a beautiful mountain town in Colorado, and the federal government says, oh, that's where you want to go? We'll pay for your housing, we'll pay for your food, and we'll pay for your health care. That must be nice. But the American people don't get that luxury. The illegal immigrants do. So this has to stop. We have to be America first, not America last. And when you have people like Governor Newsom and Joe Biden and Mayorkas who are America last, this is America that we're living in. In New York City, you have governors like Abbott, governors like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who said enough is enough. You think it's okay in these liberal states and cities? We're just going to ship them to you. So they started busing these illegal immigrants to their cities, one being New York City. New York City has become so overrun with illegal immigrants that the mayor of New York City is asking for help from the Biden administration and from the federal government because they just can't afford to house them anymore. Hello? This is where we have been for years, for 3 years under Joe Biden and his administration. So now these Democrat-run cities and Democrat-run states are seeing the struggle that the border states and the border cities like Eagle Pass have been feeling all along. But it has to stop. We cannot afford another 4 years of Joe Biden and his administration and keep doing this. We have to put President Trump back in office. His policies worked. Finish building the wall. Keep the razor wire up in Texas. Stop all the nonsense and the political games. Close our border. Get the illegals that are in here out. And put America first. These legal immigrants, these legal migrants who came to America to live the American dream, who came here the legal way, they're working. They're bettering our communities. They're providing for their families. They're putting them in good schools. They came to live the American dream. They ask me, what is the American dream anymore? The American dream is now the illegal immigrant dream for Joe Biden. Because if you come here and you work, you get taxed, and you have high inflation, and you have to pay all of these high rates, more for bread, more for eggs, more for gasoline. That's the American dream now. Because they're more focused on catering to the illegals who are crossing our country. Terrorists on the terrorist watch list. Rapists, murderers, drug dealers, working hand in hand with the drug cartel. These are the people they're catering to. And if we don't get out and vote, we are going to have another 4 years of this, and America will be no longer the America as we know. It is up to you to vote, and it's up to you to make sure your family votes and your church members vote and the people at your college vote or your workplace vote, no matter who you know. Bring 10 people to the polls with you or more. We've got to save America. When I ask the people on the ground all over, what's your number one concern? They are concerned about their money and the economy. They can't survive. But immigration is the number one concern right now for all Americans. So again, with President Trump visiting the border today, he has made it clear he cares. He cares when he started building the wall. He cared when he wanted to finish the wall. He cared when he wanted to help states like Texas, where he is today. Any resources you need, I'll help. So we've got to remember illegal immigration is going to be the demise of America if we allow it. And as Americans, we cannot allow it. So we're going to go back to President Trump here in just a little bit. That's where he'll be speaking to the press. He will, and to America, he will be holding a press conference here momentarily. So we're getting set up there with Brian Glennon, our photographer there on the ground in Eagle Pass. But in the meantime, I want you to know about some other news taking place just this week in the nation's capital. Hunter Biden actually had a deposition on Wednesday, which is yesterday. It was a closed door deposition on Capitol Hill, lasting hours long, speaking in front of the House of Representatives and the GOP. Members grilled him, actually, on if his father, Joe Biden, was involved in his business dealings. Of course, Hunter Biden denies it, but the GOP has proof that Joe Biden was the big guy in many cases and that he did get money from all of those dealings. So we hope to have more from that here in the coming week or so, but that did take place yesterday on Capitol Hill. Also in the news in Georgia, the Fani Willis case, which has been very it has spread throughout the country. A lot of people tuned into this case. The affair timeline not adding up, with more testimony this week from friends and colleagues actually going against Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, who she was having an affair with. A key witness just this week, a key witness says that Fani and Wade were actually in a relationship before she hired him. So that goes against Fani and Wade's testimony. But if you talk to others who know them very well, who have testified, they actually say their relationship has been going on longer than Fani Willis and Nathan Wade have said. So that's continuing to go on in Georgia as well. Poll numbers, we continue to watch poll numbers as they come in. I'm a big fan of interactive polls. President Trump uses that on Truth Social as well. Always a good source to go to with the daily poll numbers that are coming out. But I want to look at some other polls today that just came out. A new Howard University poll shows that black voters are turning away from Joe Biden, which is interesting because Joe Biden, remember when he was running the first time, he says, "You're not black if you don't vote for me." The craziest thing, he says some crazy things, but that's got to be in the top 5 for me, for him to say. But yes, President Trump doing very well right now with the black voters, according to that poll. Also, a University of Oregon poll shows that Joe Biden is struggling with young voters, which is great to see because there's a push to get more young voters out. When they go off to college, they get brainwashed by professors and the college life, and so they may turn to Democrat and all the liberal ways. But when you have organizations like Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, who's making it a point now to be on college campuses to fight back against the liberal brainwashing of our children, those organizations are great. So I encourage you, if you're a parent or a college student watching right now, to look into Turning Point USA. If they're not on your campus, you can start a chapter on your campus. And it doesn't have to have a lot of members straight out of the gates. It can just be you and a friend to start that chapter. But if your college does not have a Turning Point USA chapter, go to their website and there is a tab where you can start a chapter at your college. And I believe, I heard this just last week at CPAC in Washington, D.C., I believe, from what I hear, Turning Point USA is also reaching out to high school students as well. So that's good to see in these polls that Joe Biden is losing votes with the younger voters, because there is a push now in the Republican Party to start reaching these younger voters when they move away from home and they go into the real world and they get brainwashed. Charlie Kirk and his organizations are meeting them at the door to make sure that that does not happen. So again, make sure if your college in your community does not have a Turning Point USA chapter, it's easy to do. Just go to their website and you can start one at your college or university. Now, looking at those two polls, the Trump campaign touting that Trump's record of success appeals to all Americans, no matter, like that first poll where it says black voters or the young Americans. He appeals to all Americans, that Bidenomics is making life unaffordable, and saying that his open border is making communities more dangerous, which we all know that our communities are more dangerous because of Biden and his open border policies. If you're watching right now on Rumble, hello to all of you. If you're watching on RSBN, our network, our RSB network, that is, .com. Thanks for watching. Wherever you're watching, join the conversation. Love hearing from all of our viewers as we go live from across the country. You can message us, join the chats, tell us about what some of the biggest concerns in your community are, where you live. We'll read off some of those comments if we can here later in the broadcast. Where can you follow us? Well, you can go to our app. We have the RSBN app that is free, user-friendly. It's my favorite to use, actually, because you just get on the app, and once you push the app, it says watch live, and you push watch live, and you're there. So user-friendly for our app. That's the RSBN app, and it's free to download. You can watch us there. You can also watch us on rsbnetwork.com, Rumble. You can go to locals on Rumble as well, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So we're all over the place. You can watch us anywhere on those social media sites. We're also on Truth Social, so give us a follow there as well. While you're on our website, rsbnetwork.com, make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We really want you to stay connected as we head into November. It's going to be a busy 2024. It already is, and we're not even to March yet. Tomorrow is March 1st, and so it's been busy so far, and we know it's going to pick up. So as we hit the road, we want you with us. So sign up for our newsletter on our website, rsbnetwork.com. Many of you reach out to me as well. Met a lot of great people last week at CPAC in Washington, D.C. While I was there, met great conservatives from all over the country, from the young to the old, so many people. It was just a great conference, as it is every year. Connected with a lot of new friends on my social media pages. I encourage you to do so as well. You can join the conversation and chat with me there as well. You can go to my Instagram, my X, which is Twitter, Truth Social pages. That's at Vanessa Broussard. Just search my name, Vanessa Broussard, and I'm happy to connect with all of you. A quick programming note as we wait for President Trump to take the stage there in Eagle Pass, Texas. We have a busy few days coming up, and we want you to join us. So mark your calendar that on Saturday we'll be in North Carolina. Brian Glenn and Scott Delfaco will be there. Also on Saturday, I'll be in Virginia with Matthew Alvarez. We'll be in Richmond for a Get Out the Vote rally with President Trump. Then on Super Tuesday, which is Tuesday of next week, that's election day for many states, we'll have team coverage as the results come in, so stay connected with Right Side Broadcasting Network. So busy couple of days coming up, but we're glad you're joining us, and we're glad that you are following along with us throughout this campaign trail, your campaign headquarters. Okay, we're hearing that we're still waiting for President Trump to take the podium in Eagle Pass, Texas. Texas, huge border state. Governor Abbott doing what he can to protect the border. If you follow him on X, you will see that he does a lot of posting almost daily about what's going on at the border. He keeps his citizens, the residents of Texas, updated on what's happening at the border. He has done what he can, when it comes to protecting the border on land and in the water. And no matter what he does, he gets flack from the federal government. He has installed barriers in the water, in the river there, to try to stop some of these illegal immigrants from crossing over. He's also installed razor wire there at the border, which made news headlines just a couple of weeks ago because the Biden administration says that that is inhumane and that those razor wires need to be taken down. The very next day after Governor Abbott received that notification from the federal government, he made sure it was posted on his X that he was installing more razor wire. So he's doing what he can despite the lack of effort from the federal government to protect Texas and its citizens, but it's almost impossible to do alone. President Biden needs to sign an order to close the border. He could have done it yesterday, last month, 3 years ago, but he refuses to do so. And so all of the crime that you're seeing taking place across the country, all of the illegal drugs that are coming in, the death toll has skyrocketed with people being overdosed by fentanyl. Whatever you're seeing is on the hands of Joe Biden. He has blood on his hands. This is clearly his fault because he could have shut down the border years ago, but he refuses to do so. So He decided when President Trump made the announcement that he was coming to the Texas border that he would visit the Texas border today as well. Not because he cares, because again, if he cared, he would sign an order to close the border, but it's just a photo op for him to take a picture and say he's there, and the mainstream media will wag their tails and say, look at him, he's there at the border, he's doing what he can. No, he's not. It's a photo op only because President Trump is there today. And also, you know, why he decided to go on the same day. Someone asked him that when he was at an ice cream shop the other night. Imagine that. Eating on an ice cream, licking the cone, laughing about, oh, I heard my friend was going to be there on Thursday. President Biden, you knew that Donald Trump was going to be there because he announced it, and then you announced it right after him. All right, in the meantime, we're going to turn it back over to Eagle Pass. Live pictures there with President Donald Trump.
All right, guys, let's go. Let's go. Come on. All right, everyone come stand behind me, please. Back up, back up, back up, please. Back up, back up, back up. Guys, let's keep backing up, please. Let's keep backing up, please. Danny.
Keep backing up.
Cool. You got one right here.
Thank you very much, everyone.
What we see is mother a child on their shoulders, right? Yeah. That's how it happens. So
Trump things over the cockpit, getting all the one of the boat room. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, guys. We gotta go. All right. Now we gotta roll. Gotta move.
All right, you're looking at live pictures from Eagle Pass, Texas, where President Donald Trump is speaking with Border Patrol agents there, and also Texas Governor Greg Abbott before he makes his public remarks. So we'll stand by for that here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Before that, if you weren't watching us, if you're just tuning in, he entered a tent where many members of our National Guard in Texas were standing by with big posters of what's taking place at the border, and they were giving President Trump an update on what's taking place. And it's hard to hear is because the fan was on in the tent, I'm told, and so we were trying to give you a little bit of sound of what they were talking about, but the air conditioning was blowing really loud in that tent. But yes, that was what was taking place there, was President Trump was meeting with the Texas National Guard, our military, and getting an update by these posters of what's been taking place at the border. And of course, President Trump has laid it out many times what his plans are to secure the border if he were to, and when he does win the election in November come January of next year. He wants to finish the wall, and he wants to deport these illegals back to their countries of origin. And so that is his plan. That is what needs to take place, because they do not belong here in America to bring more drugs and more crime to our communities. We've seen enough of it already. People who are being raped, people who are being murdered, those deaths and those criminal activities would not have happened if our border was closed. So again, President Trump says he will end all of this first day in office, secure our border, finish the wall, and work with the border states to ensure they have the resources that they need to protect the border, because they're not getting it right now from Joe Biden. Okay, so we talked about crime when it comes to Laken Riley in Georgia, the college student. Our thoughts and prayers go out to her family members, and also that college, that university campus. I've seen pictures and videos on social media of college students gathering together for a candlelight vigil for her, just in shock and disbelief that this has happened at the hands of an illegal immigrant. Also, can't help but think of the mother and father in the Washington, D.C. area who just this week lost their 2-year-old in a shooting by an illegal immigrant. And then also, in Louisiana, borders the Texas state, a 14-year-old raped by an illegal immigrant. So all of these cases that we're just mentioning, there's so many more, but those are the 3 that's happened in the last couple of days that have made top news headlines, but there are so many more criminal activities going on. Look in New York City, where our police officers are being beaten in the streets by illegal immigrants. None of this should be going on. None of this should happen. It needs to stop today, and it needs to stop right now. They're bringing crime and they're bringing drugs into all states, not just our border states. So again, this is all in the hands of President Joe Biden. It is his fault. He is in Texas today on the heels of President Trump making his visits. I talked about it earlier. This is just a photo op from him. Don't believe anything you see on the mainstream media, because they're going to tell you it's great, it's wonderful, he cares. He is there to help out, and he hasn't at all. He's actually fighting the governors who are trying to protect their states, like Governor Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton and all the wonderful senators and state reps who are doing what they can, voting to make sure that the resources are there at the border to secure our homeland. But this also affects you too if you don't live in Texas, because if Texas is secure, it makes it harder for the illegal immigrants who are coming through Texas. It's closest for them to come through Texas, wherever they may be. They're moving inland to your state. So if Texas Governor Greg Abbott can stop them at the border, that means you're more protected too, wherever you live. Now, Governor Newsom, I don't know what he's thinking or why he's doing what he does. That's just bizarre, crazy to me. But just think, if they're moving west, they'll have to go across Texas and New Mexico and Arizona before they get to California. So it makes it harder for a lot of these illegal immigrants to migrate to the west if Texas's border was closed. But the border should be closed all around. I was actually talking to a viewer just a couple of weeks ago who lived up north, and she told me, she said, hey, we have to deal with the southern border and the northern border, because the northern border doesn't really get much news time, but we have a little bit of that going on there as well. So illegal immigration, a huge concern in the United States of America. We're going to toss it right back over to our Brian Glenn. Brian?
All right, you're taking a look right now. We are live here at Shelby Park, Eagle Pass, Texas, at the Remarks podium. We are moments away from President Trump is on the other side of this barrier, surveying the border there with Governor Greg Abbott as well. I expect him and others to make their way back here to the podium for a few remarks. If you're just now joining us, welcome. Vanessa Broussard live in the studio, Brian Glenn here on location in Eagle Pass, Texas, and we appreciate you tuning in on this beautiful day here in South Texas. And of course, the story has been most of the year, most of the last couple years, it is about the border, securing our southern border, and it's been one of the number one issues in terms of the election. Obviously President Trump talks about it extensively at the rallies, and it's been one of the top issues amongst voters, not only here along the South Texas U.S.-Mexico border, but also throughout the country. We go to New Hampshire, we go to Michigan, and some other states. Obviously, this is the number one thing. You might get a shot of also a couple patrol boats that are in the area around. If you can imagine, the security right now is like you would expect if the president was in your town. We've got some aerial helicopters. We've got several boats in the water. And, of course, the ground support here not only is provided by the Secret Service, but you also have DPS. You have, looks like even some Army National Guard, some statewide backup here as well. So the police presence is solid. We are, just on the other side of the river, if you will, from Mexico. And we were kind of doing some observations when the president finally got to the ground here. We noticed that the international bridge here, and there's several bridges that go across in this area, but this one particular that's literally a few hundred yards behind us, they were still open. Traffic was going in and out of Mexico and U.S. So that bridge remained opened during the president's visit here on the ground, which I thought was interesting. Also, we can look across the bridge on the Mexico side, and you can see a lot of people on top of some overpasses, on top of some roofs, trying to get a peek of what's going on down here, because this is a very historic moment. I mean, you've got a crisis here in this country, the #1 issue according to voters, and you've got President Trump here. And, of course, a few hundred miles to the south of us, you've got President Joe Biden visiting the Brownsville area, which in terms of the severity of the border crisis, I wouldn't say that necessarily is ground zero. President Trump came to ground zero of this border crisis here at Eagle Pass, and it's been so much controversy in the news about these barriers. I'm going to look real quickly at these. If we can pan the camera here, we'll get these orange barriers that Governor Abbott has put out to float on the river there. And of course, that was a controversial. Biden administration wanted those floating barriers removed. So, in my opinion, Governor Abbott has done just about everything he could do within the power that he is given and the resources that he has to secure this Texas U.S. border. And as a Texan, I will tell you, I am in 100 support of what Governor Greg Abbott has been doing and will continue to do on this. Now, we are starting to see some of the media push away, which leads me to believe we're probably moments away from seeing the president. As you can see, some of the photographers are making their way through here as well. And we'll get in position for that. If you join us, Brian Glenn, live here in Eagle Pass, Texas, awaiting President Trump remarks here. Governor Greg Abbott, Brandon Judd, I've seen also walking with the president as they make their way over to the podium here. And from what I've been told, after these remarks, he'll go over and record a town hall with Sean Hannity, which will, I guess, air later tonight. But let's just listen in as we're live here. Eagle Pass, Texas, Shelby Park, as President Trump tours the Texas U.S. Let's listen in. Not only to Abbott, but for the state of Texas. So let's listen in.
Well, we'll go tie. Okay. That's great, Governor. Thank you very much, everybody. This is an honor to be with you. We've been spending a lot of time with the governor and everybody. And the job they've done is incredible, but sadly, we're saying it's a military operation. It's an amazing job, and if you look at Arizona, they haven't done anything. Their governor hasn't done a thing, and the governor in California hasn't done a thing. People are flowing through there like nothing, but Texas is very secure, and it's going to be even more secure by the time you finish, which will be soon. And I just want to thank some friends of mine. Brandon Judd has been a friend from day one. He knew what we were all about, and knew what we were saying and doing, and I think we were ahead of our time. And General Thomas Sulzer was somebody that was always right there and understands this Texas military department about as well as you could have. I think he understands war, because that's what you're in. You're in a war. And William Mike Gorby, you know who he is, and he's been fantastic. It's just an incredible group that you've put together, fortunately. I might ask Brandon to say a couple of words, because right at the beginning we were into it. We saw what was happening, and the governor was there, and then he really stepped it up. It's been amazing. I came when I was lucky enough to receive his endorsement. I endorsed him also, and very proudly endorsed him. And a lot of things have happened in the last little while, but this is an incredible operation. Brandon, would you like to say a couple of words, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I want you to know, your agents, my agents, they're mad as hell. Absolutely mad that President Biden went to Brownsville, Texas, rather than going to Arizona, rather than going to San Diego, California, rather than coming to Eagle Pass, Texas, which has been the epicenter. What President Trump has seen right here is he's seen how his policies have worked, but he's also seen how he can expand upon those policies once he goes back into the White House. He has seen how Governor Abbott has been able to use his policies to secure this specific area, the epicenter of the last 2 years of the illegal border crisis that we have had to endure. And your agents, President, they are pissed. Border Patrol agents are upset that we cannot get the proper policy that is necessary to protect human life, to protect American citizens, to protect the people that are crossing the border illegally. We want to protect them as well. And we can't do that because President Biden's policies continue to invite people to cross here. Thank goodness we have a governor like Governor Abbott. Thank goodness we have somebody that's willing to run for President of the United States, forgo everything else that he's been doing to serve the American people. President, thank you.
Thank you very much. The reports have come out, and we've been covering them, and everybody's been. And I spoke to the parents of an incredible young lady, and you saw her the other day. You saw what happened the other day in Georgia, and the parents are devastated. They're incredible people. But this is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion over the past 3 years. I call him Crooked Joe because he's crooked. He's a terrible president, the worst president our country's ever had, probably the most incompetent president we've ever had. But it's allowing thousands and thousands of people to come in from China, Iran, Yemen, the Congo, Syria, and a lot of other nations. Many nations are not very friendly to us. He's transported the entire columns of fighting-aged men, and they're all at a certain age, and you look at them and say, they look like warriors to me. Something's going on that's bad. Now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime, but that's a little bit long, so we'll just leave it. But every time you hear the term migrant crime, you know where that comes from. Allowing thousands and thousands and actually millions and millions of people to come. Could be 15 million, could be 18 million by the time he gets out of office, because hopefully the biggest risk we have is 9 months. That's a long time. Right. A lot of bad things can happen. I always say in speeches and rallies, it's if you take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country and you added them all up, all of the problems, all of the lousy jobs they've done, you can add them all up. It's not as bad as this one man has done for our country. What he's done to our country is he's destroying our country. We were just talking before. The general was saying, he can't believe what's happening. He can't believe it. It's so sad. Last year, almost half of all ICE arrests were criminal aliens charged for more than 33,000 assaults, 3,000 robberies, 6,900 burglaries, 7,500 weapons crimes. This is all migrant crime. 4,300 sex crimes, 1,600 kidnappings, and 1,700 homicides and murders. These are the people that are coming into our country. And they're coming from jails, and they're coming from prisons, and they're coming from mental institutions, and they're coming from insane asylums, and they're terrorists. They're being let into our country. And it's horrible. It's horrible. And, you know, I know many of the leaders of these other countries that are doing it, and it's not just South America, it's all over the world. The Congo, a very big population coming in from jails from the Congo. You look at the jails now, you take a look at the jails throughout the region, but more importantly, throughout the world. They're emptying out because they're dumping them into the United States. And these guys try and make like, oh, isn't it wonderful? They don't have a clue. I think they're looking for votes. They're looking for something. Nobody's really been able to tell me how anybody could want it. You know, you're always in business. You always want to understand the other side. You want to figure it out so you can do something that's good or bad, depending on what you're looking for. But nobody can explain to me, because everybody I speak to says how horrible it is. Nobody can explain to me how allowing millions of people from places unknown, from countries unknown, who don't speak languages. We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody that even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks them. And they're pouring into our country, and they're bringing with them tremendous problems, including medical problems. As you know, we had Title II, and we had different things to solve that problem, but they've terminated all of that. Even the judge couldn't believe it. The judge said, no, you can't do that. It would be horrible to do that, and he let it go. But he said in 6 months it expires, and it expired, and that's it. So I just think you're doing an incredible job. Just 1 week ago, a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student from Georgia was barbarically attacked, almost unrecognizable, while she was out on her morning run. She was a morning run. She was doing keep herself in shape. She was a beautiful young woman. She was a great person, best nursing student there was. I spoke to her parents yesterday. They're incredible people. They're devastated beyond belief. But she was beautiful, just so beautiful in so many ways, and brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely murdered. The monster that charged in the death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden. He's crooked. I took the name away from Hillary because she's no longer relevant, I guess. She was terrible, but what he is doing is just unbelievable. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it, and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. It's just a horrible story that we've had to live with for the last few days. It's hard to believe. And her parents are just, they can never be the same. Great people. Just 4 days ago, an illegal alien in Louisiana was arrested for brutally raping a 14-year-old girl while holding a knife to her throat. And he then allegedly robbed a man who was getting out of his car in front of his home and repeatedly stabbed him in the face and the back, in the face many, many times, before police found this person standing in the middle of a street, all covered with blood, standing over the blood of the man he was attacking. Last year, a sadistic illegal alien criminal who was released into our country by Joe Biden was arrested for raping an 11-year-old girl and strangling her to death in Pasadena, Texas. And shortly before she was murdered, she texted her father that someone was knocking at the door. He arrived home from work and found his daughter's body stuffed in a laundry basket underneath the bed. Horrible. Crooked Joe is the blood of countless innocent victims. It's so many stories to tell, so many horrible stories. 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in history. Brandon was saying it. The general was saying it. We had the most secure border, and people weren't coming because they knew they weren't going to get in. And we weren't promising free education, free medical, free everything. I mean, all the promises that are made. No wonder they come. I mean, you look at what this Governor Newsom from California, isn't that his name, Newsom? What he's done to California is unbelievable. People are pouring in. They think they're going to get medical aid. And our soldiers, our vets aren't being taken care of. But people that come into our country illegally are. We ended catch and release. We built 571 miles of border wall, much more than I promised I'd build. And in addition, we purchased another 200 miles. And they sold that, much of it for 5 cents on the dollar. And it's the best wall, the same wall that you're using, because the governor's now building a lot of wall also. And it works. Walls work. Walls and wheels, I always said. It's one thing never gets obsolete, a wall and a wheel. Everything else is obsolete about 2 weeks after you come up with it. And we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers to take care of our border. We had the safest border in the history of our country. And now, outside of this area where Texas has done an amazing job, and in a pretty short period of time, they're going to have it all covered. They have just been incredible. The operation that they showed me is nothing less than incredible. And I'll say this, it's a military operation. I mean, we have this is like a war. It's a military operation. So we had remain in Mexico. Remember that? You can't come into our country, and Mexico agreed to it. And I'll tell you someday, I'll tell you why. Safe third agreements, asylum bans, Title 42, and rapid removals. But Title 42 was so important, rapid removal so important. But the best was remain in Mexico. You stay in Mexico. We had catch and release in Mexico. We had catch before that. It was catch and release a criminal, and they released him in the United States. We had no more catch and release. Our catch and release was we released him in Mexico. And if you broke the law, we caught you, we deported you, or we did something else. But we were doing a great job, and that's where it stood. And then we had an election that we ended up getting many millions of more votes than we did. We did much better in 2020 than we ever even thought about doing in 2016. And very bad things happened. And from that moment on, it was a whole different ballgame in Texas and all over. But the governor in Texas picked up the ball, and they've done an incredible job. And I'll tell you, it's an honor to be here. I brought some people here, some executives from New York, because they're marveling at it, too. You're doing your job. Now we have to find out what's going on the side, each side, because Arizona's not doing their job. You have a Democrat, liberal, or more than that, governor that probably doesn't want to do anything. So people are just pouring in through Arizona, and they're pouring in through the beautiful state, the once beautiful state, still beautiful, I guess, but they have a lot of crime and a lot of problems, California, because the governor's not doing his job in California. He's doing a terrible job. He talks a good game. You know, he talks about how wonderful things are, but he's wrong. And they have a big outflow of people that pay taxes, people that don't commit crime. They're leaving. A lot of them are leaving. So I just want to thank the governor. I want to thank this incredible group of talent behind me. And we just went through something very, very special. We did a tour, and we did it through all sorts of cameras. They're all over the place. I don't know. They're in the sky. They're in satellites. They're on the top of those light poles. They're all over the place. And you really have it done, and I'm very appreciative of it, Governor. You did a great job, and you're my friend, and it's an honor to have your support and your endorsement, and likewise me to you. Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you, President Trump, for being back in Texas. You being here shows that today is a day of an extraordinary contrast. We have President Trump back in the state of Texas, literally on the border itself, a place that he's been to many times, talking about all the things that he's done to secure the border. At the very same time, we have President Biden down in Brownsville, Texas, which was an obligatory visit by him. He'd never been to the border. In fact, I don't think he's on the border itself right now. He's in some sanitized location in the Brownsville area, not seeing the razor wire that Texas has put up around Brownsville. And he announced that he was going to Brownsville after it was already known that President Trump was coming to the state of Texas. It just goes to show that Biden does not care about either Texas or the border and what's going on. As a result, you see a disaster. The United States of America is dealing with more deadly consequences than we have in our entire lifetime because of Joe Biden's policies on the border. And it did not have to be this way. As President Trump just talked, there were 4 policies that he put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in about 4 decades. The end of catch and release, the Title 42 policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, and building the border wall. All Joe Biden had to do to secure the border was to keep in place what President Trump put in place in the first place. But instead, what Joe Biden did, he signed executive orders eliminating all of the effective policies that President Trump put in place. And then Joe Biden did something even worse. Joe Biden lied to America when he told America that he needed Congress to pass laws for him to be able to do something about the border. Because there are 3 laws that Congress has already passed that are on the books right now that Biden could and should enforce. One is a law that requires the Biden administration to deny illegal entry into the United States, like what Texas is doing right here and like what President Trump did. He's not denying illegal entry.
President Biden is aiding and abetting illegal entry. The second law requires the president's administration to detain anybody who does get here illegally. Biden is not detaining them. He's releasing them across the entire country. The third law that Congress already has on the books is a law that requires the Biden administration to build border barriers like what Texas has built, like what President Trump has built. And Biden not only is not building any borders, Biden is using every tool that he can to tear down the borders that Texas is putting up in our state. And because what Biden is doing has endangered our country, as President Trump was telling you the stories, not a week goes by without an American either losing their life, being raped or assaulted by somebody that Biden has allowed in our country illegally. The fact of the matter is, because of Joe Biden's policies and the more than 8 million people who have crossed the border, the United States of America is being invaded. And because Joe Biden is not doing his job to step up and secure the border, Texas has invoked the authority provided to us in Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution to declare an invasion and for Texas to defend ourselves from the crimes that are being caused by Joe Biden. Very quickly, here's what Texas is doing. Texas is the only state in the history of America to build our own border wall. And we did not reinvent the wheel. We're just building the very same wall that President Trump put up. Second, we deployed those big orange buoys into the Rio Grande that are effective at denying illegal entry. And Joe Biden filed a lawsuit to try to put a stop to it. Even though that lawsuit is tied up in the courts right now, those buoys remain in the Rio Grande River as we speak right now. The third thing is we have tremendous members of the Texas National Guard led by General Seltzer. And General, thank you. And also I want to take this time to thank Martin Freeman from the Texas Department of Public Safety and Mike Banks, where we have our own border czar. Mike Banks has spent more time as the Texas border czar in one day than the United States border czar has spent in our entire tenure. And I want to thank Mike Banks for his job as a former Border Patrol agent and now as the Texas border czar. But what our National Guard has done, they have sealed off this entire park and taken it over, because this area was being used by the Biden administration to violate the laws of the United States of America. And I said, I will not allow this Texas land to be used by the Biden administration to violate American laws. And I asked the National Guard to take it over, and they did in one day. But this is the important fact. Since they took it over, the number of people that used to come across the border before were 3,000, 4,000, sometimes 5,000 people a day. Now, since this park has been taken over and wired shut, there is on average about 6 or 7 people coming across a day. Most of them are in violation of state law for trespassing, and they are arrested when they come into this park. And so for all practical purposes, this part of the border is sealed. Same goes for where Joe Biden is right now. Where Joe Biden is on the night that Joe Biden lifted Title 42. Brownsville, Texas was ground zero where people were crossing across the border illegally. And immediately, the Texas National Guard wired that shut. So an area during the time of Joe Biden before Title 42 was, or when Title 42 was lifted, there were thousands of people coming across the border. Now there is on average about 14 people crossing the border in that area. And that's because the Texas National Guard has wired it shut. Because we are having to do so much to secure our border, that's exactly why 5 miles south of here, Texas has now launched its own Texas National Guard military base that will house 2,300 Texas National Guard. So they will be able to more swiftly and more effectively continue to secure our border. And the last thing I'll say is this: unless and until Joe Biden steps up and does his job, that he has the power to do already to enforce the laws of the United States of America, Texas will continue to bus those migrants to sanctuary cities all across the United States of America. But I am very thankful for the model set by President Trump. President Trump showed that when he was in office, he was able to secure the border. And I know that when he is reelected as our president, our border will once again be secured. So thank you, President Trump. At this time, I would like to introduce you to the person leading the effort on behalf of the Texas National Guard, General Seltzer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your Texas National Guard remains decisively engaged across 1,254 miles of Texas border. From El Paso down to Brownsville, we are blocking illegal immigration, drug smuggling, weapon smuggling into this state. We do this in depth. We have boats on the river, as you can see. We have drones in the sky. We have a radar truck right over there that can track 300 targets at once. And if they get to the shore, as everyone has just said, they're going to meet miles and miles of barrier. And if they get through the barrier, they're going to meet thousands of Texas soldiers and thousands of DPS troopers who are going to arrest them. So if you are around the world contemplating coming to do an illegal entry into the United States of America, you need to think twice about that. Go somewhere else or don't even begin your journey, because if you get through that wire, we're going to arrest you.
Okay, sure.
In Venezuela, there's one leader, dictator, I should say, you didn't mention, Nicolas Maduro. What should the United States do to deal with Maduro, his cartel of the Suns, and also the Mexican cartels, which are making billions of dollars in human smuggling?
Governor, I'll go and
Sure.
go ahead.
Listen, I would, if Biden were here, I would tell him exactly what I told him when I met him on the tarmac in El Paso. The last time he visited Texas, and on the tarmac in El Paso, I handed him a one-page document that listed all the items I talked about here about the laws that already exist that he can enforce to secure the border. So I handed him that document and also handed it to Secretary Bjorkas, who was there at the time. And I told them there are these three simple strategies that you can take right now to secure the border to stop all the madness that's taking place. They said they would take a look at it. I've not heard from them since that time.
In Venezuela, it's a very terrible situation. When I left, they were in very bad shape. We would have done something very easily with them, just like we had a lot of countries in very bad shape. As you know, just to go to a different part of the world, Iran was broke, and they weren't going to be attacking Israel. They had no money. They weren't giving it to Hamas. They weren't giving it to Hezbollah. They weren't giving it to anybody. They didn't have it. Now they're a rich country again. They have $250 billion and rich as you can be, and they're handing the money out all over the place. So, you know, a lot of things changed. Venezuela was in bad shape. Now they're in good shape. We actually buy their oil, if you can believe it, and we refine it in Houston. It's the only place where you can refine it because it's really tar, much more so than oil. But we would not be playing games with Venezuela. They would not be doing what they're doing. Now they're sending people, and they just put out a statement last week, we're not taking them back. They're sending their people from jails and prisons and mental institutions, and they say we're not taking them back. That wouldn't happen with the Trump administration, that I can tell you. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the governor and the entire group of people behind me, and I would call them staff, and I would call them representatives and generals. They are unbelievable people. The job they've done so quickly and so effectively, and congratulations. Congratulations to all of you guys. Fantastic job, really, General. Great job. Thank you all very much. Great honor. Thank you. On the what? Well, I hear he's going to be not going to be leader, and he's taken that step. And a lot of people are calling me to politic for that particular job. Would you like to be the leader? I think I might have to choose this guy.
I'd rather be governor of Texas.
I think you're doing well. I want to keep you in Texas. No, it's people were surprised by it, but it's all going to work out. We're going to end up with a great leader. Well, I can't say that. A lot of good choices, but I can't say that. Thank you very much, everybody.
few remarks with the press. All right, President Trump taking a couple questions here from the press that's gathered here. Obviously, President Trump making it clear that the crisis is very much centered right here in Eagle Pass, not necessarily down in Brownsville or down in El Paso region as well. All right, I'm going to toss the coverage over to Vanessa, who is live in the studio to take us home. Vanessa, back to you.
All right, so we are wrapping it up there in Eagle Pass, hearing from President Trump as well as Governor Greg Abbott. Those two just spoke about how important it is to secure the Texas border, but not just in Texas. You heard the president for their borders as well, because illegal immigrants are flooding into those states. But we mentioned that earlier. Texas is doing its part, but we need all of the border states to do their part. So if you live in Arizona or if you live in California, hammer your officials to make sure that they secure your state's border so we can protect America, because the federal government is not doing so. And you also heard from one of the officials on the ground who says that the Texas National Guard and law enforcement officers and military on the border who work there day in and day out are mad as hell. That is a quote. They're mad as hell. They should be. They have a right to be, because they don't have the resources that they need coming from the federal government, just from the state of Texas. So thank goodness, thank God for Texas. God bless that great state, because they are doing what they can, and we appreciate the men and women who are on the ground every single day, risking their lives, protecting our nation. So thank you to those who serve. Also, a programming note.